Welcome back to the Exhaust Note podcast. This is the second half of an episode that released a couple weeks ago. So if you've not seen the first part, I recommend going back and watching that before watching this one.
So a little bit about the cars, why I got what I got. So I think starting with the Porsche, that's the easy one. Uh, I wanted a sports car, a pure sports car, something that's not too loud, not too flashy, like a Ferrari or a Lambo. Not my style. I kind of like the under the radar kind of approach. And the Turbo S is one of the fastest sports cars out there. And you can argue, is it fast? These are fastest, and it's not the fastest, but it's very, very fast. And for my driving skills, it's plenty fast. And anything above that, I just get into more trouble than I should. So this is a very fun car. The Porsche Club is amazing. The people are amazing. It's beyond just the car; it's also the people, and it's reliable. There's a lot of dealers around the country, so it's very easy to maintain. And this is just a great experience if you want a great sports car. The Mercedes for me was a long dream. I've had a lot of older Mercedes with V12s and luxury cars. I love the big luxury cars, as you can see. Um, this car is really an ultra luxury GT or Grand Touring, kind of like your Bentley Continental GT. That's what it competes with. And this car is like a spaceship. It's just so amazing to drive and so beautiful and just reliable and just, I cannot say enough good things enough about it. And I love it. So I wanted an ultra luxury GT, and that's the car that I got. I wanted a real pure luxury car, and you don't get a better or more luxurious car than a Rolls Royce Phantom. It's just the ultimate. You search the most luxurious car in the world on Google, and this will come up 100% of the time. And then I wanted a convertible, and the convertible was a little bit tougher choice because in convertibles you can have anything from a Mazda Miata to maybe a Mercedes C300 or a little BMW convertible to an ultra luxury convertible like a Maybach or a Bentley or a Rolls Royce convertible. You can have a Ferrari or a Porsche convertible, which are very fast. And you really have to choose what kind of convertible experience you want. And they come in all flavors. For me, I have a fast car if I want to go fast with the Porsche. I have an ultra luxury GT, which is a high speed cruiser. I wanted a convertible experience that basically you open the window, you put the top down, you put your hand on the windowsill, and you just cruise. And it's nothing but luxury. And to me, this car is, on the one hand, a little bit understated compared to, let's say, some of the other brands out there. It doesn't attract as much attention, but it's just as luxurious and as nice and as amazing and as reliable and will hold its value and provides exactly that experience. So to me, it was just being able to get four very different types of driving experiences. And that's how I ended up with the selection that I had.
Are the Mercedes very difficult to maintain?
Difficult? Not at all. V12s are known for having higher cost to maintain. Um, the key to, I think, any car, and these cars included, is two things. One, to drive them. Don't just have them sit. They need to be driven and on a pretty regular basis. I'm in North Carolina, so the convertible doesn't get driven a whole lot during the winter, even though, where I'm at, it's not terrible weather during the winter. But clearly, I drive it less during the winter. But I try to drive it at least once a month, and you need to drive a car like this for about 30 minutes to really get it warmed up and get to operating temperature with all its systems. And the other thing is to maintain it. And to be honest, I take it to the local Mercedes dealer. I have a relationship with them because I also have a S560 sedan that I maintain with them. And I asked them to assign me a senior mechanic who knows how to work on these V12s. And I pay on average about between $1,500 to $2,500 a year to do the basic service, depending if you're doing service A and B and exactly what you're doing. Sometimes it can go up a little bit if you're doing plugs and whatnot, maybe to 4,000 at the most. So it's not a cheap car to maintain, but it's not an expensive car to maintain. I think where people get into trouble is that if you look at a lot of these luxury cars, like Rolls Royce, Bentley, some of the high-end Mercedes, the first owner gets a lease, 3 years, all the maintenance is included, and they get it done. The second owner gets the car with under 10,000 miles, owns it for 3 years, does very little maintenance to it, and then gets away with it. And then the third owner comes in at year 6 or 7, and the car has 40, 50,000 miles on it. And the car was never really properly maintained for the last 2 or 3 years. And now you're starting to get into some very high cost of maintenance because things start to catch up with you. I have always maintained them like clockwork. The coupe I've had since new. The Maybach I've had since it was 2 years old, but it only had 720 miles on the odometer when I bought it. And I've had, other than one bad coil pack in the convertible, which Mercedes at the time was known to have some troublesome coil packs, I've had zero problems with either car. So I think the secret is to drive it regularly and to do proper maintenance. You can take into some good independence as well. I just have a very good Mercedes dealer nearby, and like I said, they're not cheap, but they're fair. And on the V12s, you really got to know what you're doing. And so this guy is a senior mechanic with 25 years experience, and I can tell. I just don't have issues. The Porsche, there are a lot of good places that you can service Porsche. Obviously, the dealers. This car is still under warranty. I have an extended warranty. I tend to go to the dealer, even though it's a little bit more. I'm okay with it. Um, and I just don't have issues and I don't have problems. Where I live, there's a very good independent shop not too far from here, and they are a good option too. I think the secret, again, beyond just driving it, take it to a really experienced shop that knows how to work on these cars. It's critical, and do the maintenance. Don't fall behind. Uh, Rolls Royce, again, there are a lot of independents that do it. This car is under their Provenance program, or what is a fancy way of saying their certified pre-owned program. And as long as it's under their CPO program or their Provenance program, it will be taken to the dealer and serviced there. And once, I think I can renew it up to 10 years. And beyond the 10-year, they won't extend the Provenance program anymore. But there's some good independent shops out there that can do maintenance on these cars. But again, you got to find somebody who knows what they're doing and, experienced, and then drive them. So, and then in my case, I stored it in an air conditioned garage, as you can see. And so it's climate controlled and humidity controlled. And these cars are very well kept.
What is your favorite part about owning these cars?
Oh, by far the people. So yes, I'm a car guy. I love driving. I'm not a race car driver. I just enjoy driving in general. I travel the world. I always rent nice cars and enjoy driving anywhere. But to me, a big part of the experience with these cars are the people. And with the Porsche group, which is pretty active here where I'm at, we meet once a week. Sometimes we do drive. Sometimes we just do cars and coffee. I'll sometimes take to the Porsche meet my Mercedes cars. We go out to dinners or go to different places or just take out friends for fun. I'll take the Rolls or the coupe or the convertible, and people are appreciative. And I've taken people out to dinner. My cars are not garage cleans; they're driven. Um, so to me, that's part of the experience. But I think ultimately, it's the people along with the cars that make it really a true experience. And for some, it's just having a nice car sitting in the garage and like staring at it all day, and they're very proud that they only drove it 200 miles a year. To me, it's kind of a shame to have such a nice car and not experience it. But to each their own. It's a free country, and some people want to buy a bunch of cars and store them for value or for just having to look at them. More power to them. I drive mine.
You had another Mercedes. What other cars have you owned?
So these 4 cars are not daily drivers. They are just, let's call them collectible cars. I'm not sure how collectible purely they are, but it's my collection, put it that way. I have as my daily a Mercedes S560. It's the last year of the W222. It's a 2020, and I've had it for 7 years. I purchased it new. I actually ordered it the way I wanted it, so it's fully optioned. My wife drives a Porsche Macan GTS, a little fun, sporty little car. It's, I think, a 2021. And my business, I'm in North Carolina, but my headquarters of my business is still in LA. I just moved here a couple of years ago, and I go back to LA once a month. And over there, I have what's called a Porsche Cayenne Coupe Turbo. And it's basically a Cayenne that's a coupe, which is a little bit sportier, and it's in the turbo configuration. So it's kind of sporty and luxury. And I enjoy that car very much as well. So that's kind of my joy is cars, even if I am working just to get a nice car. And that's what I drive. And I've had a lot of older Mercedes over the years, uh, sedans, V12s, SLs, 500E, for those of you who are familiar with the 92, 93 500Es, um, 560 SELs, 560 SECs, things like that. I had Aaron Spelling's limo. It was an S600 limousine that was absolutely stunning. Um, when he passed away, somebody reached out to me and asked me if I wanted it, which has a whole story by itself, which I've sold it since. But yes, I have a long history with cars and luxury cars, and they're a lot of fun for me for sure, and I'm sure for many others.
Big Mercedes fan. What sets that company apart?
I think the question is not only what sets it apart, but why Mercedes and not, say, BMW. I think Mercedes, beyond being the first automobile in the world, um, there's something special to me, and I think this. Well, I'll get to that in a second. To me, there's something special about Mercedes cars, and not every Mercedes cars. I like the big S-Class sedans, the uh, S-Coupes, the ultra luxury. But I think when you're talking about an S-Class car, caliber car, there's just something very special about a Mercedes S-Class or S-Coupe or whatever derivative you're getting, or now an SL. And to me, they're attractive, the way they drive, the way they feel, the way they sound. Um, I think for any person who wants to buy, a fun car, beyond whether it's a sports car or a, convertible or whatever you're buying, there's a lot of pressure, peer pressure for people to buy, oh, this car is a great car. And they end up buying it because they were told it's a great car. If you don't have a connection to the car, if you don't feel it in your bones, wow, this thing is amazing, and I really want one, don't get it. Because to me, your daily driver is your daily driver. You buy what you can. But when you're buying a fun car, you want it to have some emotional connection to you, and you really want to be able to enjoy it. And my son actually told me when I was looking for the coupe, I was looking at other cars, and he said, Dad, what car is going to put a smile on your face a year or two after you bought it? And it was the Mercedes coupe. Until today, we're talking 7 years later, I love that car, and it's my wife's favorite car. She loves driving it. She loves driving in it. And every one of these cars puts a smile on my face, even though I've had most of them for a very long time. So to me, buy the car you love that has the most emotion to you. And to me, it's Mercedes. That's kind of been always my brand. Um, Unfortunately, the Mercedes club is not very active where I'm at. The Porsche club is very active. So I love my Porsche. I love the kind of experience that a 911 provides. It's very sporty. And all the things that we do with the Porsche club, which is the value add with the event, with the case of the Porsche. So again, if somebody wants to get into collecting cars, buy the car you love. And my suggestion is don't just buy it, look at it the first time, drive it and buy it. Go back about a week later, drive it a second time and see if it still gives you that same emotional experience. Because especially with new cars, people go to the dealer, they drive a new car, oh, it's amazing. And 2 months later, they're not very happy. Even when I buy new cars and I'm an experienced buyer, I go to the dealer, I drive something, I'll wait a week or two, go back and drive it again and see if it still has that same emotional attraction, they're still really enjoying the experience or not. Just to give you some perspective, at one point I was looking at buying a mini, I think it was a Clubman all-wheel drive, really cool. They just came out. It was kind of a fun experience. And the one that I was looking at was in a mini dealer in Calabasas, California. This thing was like option to the hilt. It was absolutely stunning. And I went and drove it the first time, and both my wife and I were like, wow, this thing is so cute and whatnot, whatnot. And I went and drove it the second time about a week later, and it just didn't do it to me anymore. And I walked away. And it wasn't price, it wasn't anything. It's just that it was cute for the first week, and after drove it a second time, it just lost its appeal. Now, nothing against Mini, that's just my preference. So I think for anybody, if you're going to go and buy something for fun, you know, drive it, wait a few days, wait a week, go drive it again or drive another one and see if that particular car really does to you what you think, they give you that emotional connection. Because that's part of the passion. And some people buy cars just to say, I have X, but they never drive them. They never feel emotionally connected. We see a lot of wealthy people buy cars because it's the hot thing to buy. And 3 months later, they trade it in because they don't like it. So to me, I need that emotional connection to a car. And Mercedes has been a brand that I grew up looking at up towards Mercedes. When I started my business, I used to joke with my partner, one day a Mercedes Benz. That was kind of like the unofficial goal, one day to be able to afford one. And many years ago, I got my first one and kind of never looked back. So I have an emotional connection to the brand. And I think if anybody wants to collect, you kind of need that piece of it too, to have a really, to get the full joy out of a car.
If you could own any car, what would it be and why?
Any car. Um, so I kind of own pretty much my dream cars. There are maybe a couple more cars that I would like to have. Um, Unfortunately, they're kind of crazy expensive right now. I'd love to have a good stick shift, and none of them are a stick shift. And I kind of miss having a nice stick shift. And one option is to get a GT3 Touring, and they are pretty pricey. They're selling right now for about 100,000 over sticker, just because that's their market value. The one that I would really love to have, it's called a Sports Classic. It's a Porsche 911 Turbo that they made into a stick shift. They only made about 1,400 of them or so. They only sold it 1 year in 2023. And unfortunately, a lot of people who had priority got them, and they're trying to flip them for 300,000 over, and they're just price wise, they're just too expensive and not worth it. And unfortunately, too many people just have them sitting in some collection and never been driven. But if I could get my hands on a Sport Classic, which is basically a 911 turbo stick shift, I would, be very, very happy. That would be probably the only car that I would still want to have in my collection. Other than that, I'm satisfied with what I've got. There's no, it's endless. Maybe an old Mercedes, something like old. Um, I was looking at a 1963, I think it's called a Phantom 3 or something like that. Uh, and there's one that's made by, it's a special trim that was made by a special builder, and they're about $400,000. They're very hard to come by, but they were like built at the time. Mercedes would build a chassis and the engine and the transmission, and then you send it to a builder to build the coach piece. And this particular, it's called Park Ward something something, and those cars are just very few and very sought after, and they're just built to a completely different level. Um, so if I ever get to the point where I can afford something like that, um, I would look into one of those, just something old. But I'm very happy with what I've got. I kind of like the new stuff. I like the technology. I like that it's reliable. I like that you can take it to a local dealer and fix it, or somebody local. And I enjoy driving them. I enjoy the driving experience. I'm not a mechanic. I don't work on cars. A lot of the old stuff, you really got to be into it and work on it. That's not my thing. So,
How did you first get into cars, like being an enthusiast?
my first experience with cars was when I was about, I want to say 12 years old. My father was driving a stick shift car and he was grinding the gears. And I remember yelling at him, you got to press the clutch, you got to let it go slowly. And he would look at me, and I'm 12 years old. And it's something that you grow up with. I grew up on a farm. I was driving tractors from the time I was 12 years old. And by the time I was 16, I was driving the big John Deeres and the cotton pickers and all that. So I've always had an attraction to anything that has an engine in it that you can drive. I'll enjoy driving. So in the military, I drove command cars, and I got to drive and operate D9s for a while. These are big bulldozers, Caterpillars, and those are fun by themselves. And, I think it's something that you just have an attraction to. Some people just like cars, and some people like to, drive them. Some people like to just write about them or see about them or do whatever, blog about them. And to me, I've just always had that knack and that ability to drive anything. I can get into anything and drive it. I'm not a race car driver. I'm not the fastest car driver out there, but I don't think there's anything I can't drive. And I'll enjoy driving anything. So even some old beaters and some, in my younger days, I drove some pretty crappy cars in some pretty hairy conditions. Uh, so I've got two sons. They're adults. One is completely into cars like me, and the other one is completely not. So go figure. And they've been exposed to cars and since very early age. So I think it's something you're really born with, that attraction to cars. And then what you do with it is a function of, how much you want to get into it and maybe financial. Um, but you don't have to have a lot of money to really experience the car experience. Uh, my son's first sports car was a Mazda Miata, and he worked on it by himself, and we changed the oil and we did the things, and those are pretty inexpensive to get into and pretty reliable. And so you don't have to spend a lot of money to have fun with a car. And so to me, I think it's something that you just have an inclination to. Some people just have it and some don't.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone who's trying to get into cars, what would that be?
Um, don't be afraid to get into it. Follow your passion. Don't go overboard. Don't spend more than you can afford. You can buy something nice and used. Do your homework, find something that's reasonably reliable within your range. But if you really like cars, go for it. It's a world upon itself. The experience of looking for cars, shopping for them, the research, going out and meeting people. And then when you get the car, you get to join now with the internet and Facebook and all these, different social media options, finding likewise people who like the same cars as you is very easy and easy to set up. Let's get together and meet here and do this and that. Fantastic. When I picked up my coupe in Germany, I did European delivery on the black coupe, the AMG. We were driving through Switzerland and we met a Mercedes club that was driving through Europe at the time. So we joined them for like half a day. And it was actually a group of older cars. They had to be at least from the 1970s. And mine was a brand new 2019 at the time. And we just started talking. And I asked them, where are you going? And we were kind of heading in the same direction. And they were just nice. They said, well, join us. So there were about, I don't know, something like 50 old Mercedes, mostly station wagons and beat up cars. And here I was driving with them just because, they're Mercedes, enthusiasts, and so was I. And people are just normally very friendly in that regard. And hey, come on, join us. And I joined them for lunch and it was great. And we drove with them for about half a day. So it was a lot of fun. So there's a lot to more than just the car itself when you start getting into cars, and find what you like and go for it. Don't be afraid to go for it.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Amir. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.